We've got a classic zine worthy of our anniversary week at FANzine Live. David Mazzuchelli's Rubber Blanket, #1. You're going to want to take a look at this. And hello everyone, it's Tom, it's FANzine Live, and we are doing on our first anniversary week, the classic zine video, and that is a true classic, a zine done by one of the masters, David Mazzuchelli. And we are going to take a look at the first issue of his zine, Rubber Blanket. It is a 1991 zine. Now, let's put Rubber Blanket in proper perspective. I've got some stuff here that I want to share with you, and that starts with my first exposure to Mazzuchelli, and that was with Daredevil. I know he did some other stuff before that, but this is where I kind of caught on to him. A very interesting book. Marvel is very big on, or was very big on, sticking with the house style. And Mazzuchelli, you can tell, I mean, this is a very standard looking Kingpin here and a very standard looking Daredevil here. But you can tell even here, working as the artist for Frank Miller on this, I think provided Mazzuchelli with a little bit of cover to start experimenting much more heavily. And as you can see, this has, of course, we're looking at a old 1987 comic. So you're looking at old style, flat coloring, done, I believe, by Christy Scheel and his creative partner, Richmond Lewis. You can see that he's starting to play with the conventions of art while not getting too far away from what Marvel likes to see. Very creative, though. Very good stuff. And the story itself is great. And as I noticed, as you can see, he starts getting more and more experimental the further and further he gets into the story, which is kind of neat. So that's Born Again. And in fact, there's a Disney Plus series about Born Again, but we're not going to talk too much more about that. So he goes from that to roughly the same period of time. Miller and Mazzuchelli, working again with Richmond Lewis on colors, work on the classic Batman Year One series. And this again was published in 4 issues in magazine form, 86 to 87. And as you can see, he's starting to grow a little further out. His artwork is a little less standard, I guess you would say. I mean, you can still read the figures out. You can tell who the characters are, but he's doing it with a level of, I don't know, what's the right word? Graininess? I'm not sure what the right word is, but he's just going a little bit further into a creative zone. And it's beautiful work. And Richmond Lewis does, again, fantastic work on colors. And as we all know, the Batman Year One story. I mean, look at that image of Batman. Fantastic stuff. So anyway, yeah, this was 86, 87 when he was working on Batman. And then he kind of got away from the big two. And then he, first published in 94, he did City of Glass, which is a very famous book. It was an adaptation of the Paul Auster series. As you can see, we're getting very creative in his art style. Almost a minimalist look in some spots. Neat. And then my most recent piece by him that I know of, I may have some others, is Asterios' Polyp. And that, oh, it's in the back. That was copyright first 609. So this is 2009. And you can tell he's gone fully creative and formal, and I mean, he's doing everything under the sun, playing with the conventions of sequential art and comics. Just incredible stuff. Asterios' Polyp is really good. But what I'm trying to tell you is these two came later than Rubber Blanket. These two came before Rubber Blanket. So Rubber Blanket, a self-published zine, is kind of the bridge between Mazzuchelli, the big two celebrity artist working with Frank Miller, going from that to some of his more wildly creative stuff with City of Glass and Asterios' Polyp. Okay, now let's talk about Rubber Blanket. First off, the thing I think we probably all immediately recognize is this is a big, big magazine. To give you a sense, let me pull out a copy of a comic-sized magazine, My Hero's Now Patriot. That's a standard comic size. This is Rubber Blanket. He's got 3 issues out. The first issue is almost entirely by him. He does have some work done with Richmond Lewis. But the book itself is 9 inches by 12 inches. Bigger than a standard 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Slightly smaller than a piece of comic size original art, but not that much. And in fact, my guess is that this stuff probably is drawn to full size, and he just did it, reproduced at 100%. Wouldn't surprise me, but I'm not entirely certain. Rubber Blanket, number 1. Mazzuchelli, Lewis. You can see the cover already is suggesting a pretty different artistic intent. We've got the asteroid here. We've got the individual. And he says it's published annually. The entire contents are copyright 1991. It's an anthology book. He's got a few pieces here that he lists. But as you can see, it is basically a 2-color type of print job for the most part. In this case, you've got this is, I guess, 3, right? Because you've got the black, brown, you've got the orange, and you've got the blue. Now, it's possible that the orange and the blue combine to make that brown. And then you've got the black and the, I don't know, what is that, an ochre or something like that? But as you can see, he's really starting to move away from his big 2 stuff. I mean, the work you can see here in no way resembles the cartooning that he did on Daredevil. It barely resembles the stuff he did on Batman. But it does resemble some of the work in City of Glass, which is the precursor to the even more experimental Asтерiosis polyp. Near Miss is a neat story. It's a story about an individual who seems to be having a bit of a mental breakdown, if you will. He discovers that there was an asteroid that almost missed the Earth by, what did it say, 450,000 miles. And he basically quickly wigs out and leaves town and decides to set up shop out in the desert at some canyon or mine or whatever. And he basically is trying to hide because he's scared to death that the next asteroid is going to hit, and he doesn't want to end up like the dinosaurs. So he runs into this female figure who has what looks to be like a trilobite or something on her stomach. He tries touching it. Here's a roar, and you see Air Force jets flying by. Distracted by that, the female figure leaves, and so then he just sets up his telescope for the night, and he's going to watch. And that's the end of the story. But some neat effects here. I mean, just neat effects. And of course, you got the trilobite here, and then he discovers the trilobite on her. Richmond Lewis helps again with the colors, which I'm not sure how much she helped on this, but really neat. Then the next one is just a 2-pager, almost like posters. If it weren't for men as the savior, women wouldn't need to be protected. Men as the aggressor. Kind of interesting, and I like the juxtaposition of the dark, the light. Just really neat type of thing. And boy, his line work has just gone so farther toward, what's the right word, abstract? I really need to take like an art appreciation class so I can speak more intelligently to this. But you can tell he's just doing some wild stuff. This is an interesting page. This is excerpted from Power Comics numbers 1 to 4, 1971, 1972. And this appears to be the collection of a 4-page strip that Mazzuchelli did as a superhero, or it's a superhero strip that he drew back in the day. So 21 or 20 to so years before the publication of this book, he was drawing comics. And so it's neat that he puts in an example of it. And it's just a standard, good guy, bad guy fight. And it's fun. But even then, I mean, you can see he's setting the scene. He's, got some good facial expressions, plays with close-ups. Kind of neat. Little cross-hatching. Fun stuff. Next one, Beyond the Last Pier. Now this is almost a what's the right word? Almost like an Edgar Allan Poe type poem that Lewis wrote, that Lewis drew, and the text is by Mazzuchelli. My bad. So this one, Richmond Lewis did. And I like, let me see. Beyond the Last Frontier. Let me just read you like the first page so you can get a sense of how it reads. It says, I was too young to learn, too old to stay, so I started off eager that morning, that day. It was more than they told me, so strange and bizarre, with no one to scold me for going too far. It reads like Poe. It reads like almost a Dr. Seuss type thing. And so you can see what they're doing. And it appears to be this kind of alien creature. then getting stuck. Gorgeous looking work. The brush strokes to be able to conjure these full page images, and the use of black just is so impressive. And then in this one, you can see that not only is it the black, but then underneath, or maybe on top, you've got the yellow. And this is about being caught in this cage of, I guess it's trash. And so you can see what looks like wires and bars and chains and stuff. And then finally gets out. And then I looked at the ocean, so dark and so clear, I saw my reflection beyond the last pier. And that's what appears to be a creature. So then he goes to Mope and Grope, and this is Mazzuchelli. This is his take on more of a newspaper type strip. So he's got newspaper style cartoon characters. I do note that this particular one, and I don't know if that's Mope or Grope, this appears to be Mope, because the Grope is the one answering the phone down here. So that's the one with the glasses. That looks very much like the Asterios' polyp character. You can see the nose construction, kind of the half arc of the head. We're getting closer and closer to that. So he does his take on that. Then he's got one here called Dead Dog. And this one I read a couple times, and I've got to tell you, it's a very surreal piece. And I need to go reread it probably a few more times before I can give like a really intelligent review of it. But I can share with you, his line work and coloring work is just really fascinating. I would love to see some artists working with color in the way that Mazzuchelli and Lewis are doing here. I think it's just fascinating to be able to evoke so much from just a single extra color. And it's not just shading, because then it becomes part of the pattern. It becomes part of the lighting of the room. The enhancement of the hatching. Just incredible. So you can see we have gone real far from Daredevil, real far from Batman. And yeah, we're about halfway to Asterios' polyp, and that actually makes sense from a chronological point of view. Look at this water scene, the water flowing out of the grandfather clock, a very surreal image. But the blacks creating the feeling of motion that's accented by that ochre again. Really cool. Really cool. And then I love this back page, which kind of, again, conjures up that 1950s type thing. Beautifully illustrated. And then it says, but this just can't be the rapture. It's supposed to be the day after tomorrow. And of course, it's apparently the rapture. And then we close it up with, she felt much better after cutting out all the parts she didn't like. Neat zine. I mean, from an art appreciation point of view, I'm not sure I can probably get much better. Story point of view, it's thought-provoking. It's varied, both in the storytelling technique, like the the poetry of this piece. And of course, you've got the Wayback Machine on this piece. Just neat stuff. Rubber Blanket, #1. All that for $5.75. Paid a heck of a lot more for it than that. This is a hard book to get. This is a hard title to find. And only 3 issues were made. I've got issue 1, and I just found issue 3 for something less than an arm and a leg. So I picked that up. I've heard issue 2 is almost impossible to find. So who knows if I'll ever get it, but I am so thrilled that I can share this with you on our first anniversary. This is true inspiration for any zine creator, a true classic zine. So, FANzine Live Classic Zines Rubber Blanket #1 by David Mazzuchelli and Richmond Lewis. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this. Toss something in the comments. Share it with your friends. I'd love to see some dialogue. What do you think about Rubber Blanket? What do you think about Mazzuchelli as a zine artist? And I hope you have a lovely day, everybody, and I will catch you next time.